Okay, hi everyone. Let's get into a little bit of a hip mobility workout. It shouldn't take too long, but this is a really great thing to do, when you wake up in the morning. We're just gonna start doing these windshield wiper movements, just taking your knees side to side, or maybe even just like after your work day, if you've been sitting a lot. I come from just like a normal 9 to 5, and been in school all my life, sitting at a desk, and my hips are still like pretty tight. They've come a long way, but they've got a long way to go. So you can have your torso back a little bit. You can be leaning back and using your arms to support you, or just kind of moving things around, loosening things up. I always like to start with dynamic movements, lubricating, like the hip joint, moving around that synovial fluid before we do any sort of static holds. And then if it feels okay to explore your end range of movement with your torso back like this, maybe you start to lift your torso up so that you sit a little bit straighter, right? So that your spine's a little bit more over your pelvis. And if that feels good, if this is feeling nice and easy, you can bring your hands up and try to do this without hands at all. But just keep in mind that if you do that, don't not use the hands at the sake of having the straight spine. So don't not use the hands and, round everything in again. The focus isn't, can I do the hardest version? The focus should be, is this doing what I need it to be doing for my hips? So just do it a few more times. And then when you're on your right side again, we're going to take this 90-90. You've probably seen this a lot. It's a very popular PT exercise. So the front shin is parallel with the back edge of your mat. And then so we've got a 90-degree angle this way and a 90-degree angle with our back left leg as well. Our feet are flexed. And then just start to take these small pulses, these small folds over that front shin. Again, just keeping things moving, noticing like where you're feeling the sensation. And then maybe coming all the way down. For me, I feel, like a little bit of nerve pain here, a little bit of like sharp nerve. So then I know that I need to do some like nerve flossing stuff or some foam rolling. And then come on out, and we'll take it over to the other side. Again, just checking our alignment. And starting with those small pulses. Maybe this side feels a little bit differently than the last side. This front hip here is in external rotation, right? And then we've got our back hip, our back right hip in internal rotation. And it's really common for you to be open in one direction or more open in one direction than the other. It's pretty common for one hip to be more open than the other. So my left hip is more open in external rotation than my right hip. And then whenever you feel like you're in a place where you can hold it statically with some level of comfort, go ahead and do that. One more breath here. And slowly use your hands to bring your torso back. And we'll just shake that out a few more times. And when you're ready, come and bring yourself to a tabletop. And just maybe take a few cat-cows, or maybe just a few hip circles, just whatever you need to do. And we're gonna take our right leg and bring it out and try to have that foot in line with our hip. And from here, I just want you to focus on the tilt of your pelvis. So we're gonna inhale and anteriorly tilt our pelvis so the hip points are going back. And then we're gonna exhale and we're gonna posteriorly tilt our pelvis. Bring our pelvis into a posterior tilt. And just do that a few times. So it's kind of like a cat-cow. You can make them into cat-cows and use your whole spine, or you can just try to isolate the movement more in your pelvis. And just really feeling what is stuck right here. And then start to bring your hips back towards your feet. Maybe you walk your hands out a little in front to do that. And then come back up, bring that foot in, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So left foot goes out to the side, and focus on the tilt of your pelvis. So start in neutral and just see what that feels like in your left hip when you're in neutral. And then take that anterior tilt, hip points going down and back. And then posteriorly tilt, hip points coming up and forward. And then just do that a few times. If you want to take it into the entirety of your spine, you can do that as well. One more time. Come back to neutral and send the hips back. Any amount will do. You don't have to send them back all the way over your heel. Just find where you feel some sensation. And when you find that place, return to your deep breaths. Walk your hands back under your shoulders and come up. Bring that foot in. And we're just gonna take some hip circles from here. So flex your right foot and bring your knee out to your side. Again, trying to keep your hip points facing down towards the mat. And then take the knee, circle it back and bring it in. Bring it up towards your wrist. Take the knee out to the side, circle it towards the back, bring it in. Let's do that 3 more times. 2 more times. 1 more time. And then we'll go back the other way. Take the knee back, out to the side towards the wrist and in. Take the knee back, out to the side towards the wrist and in. And your hip points, keep going, are gonna kind of move around, right? It's just you're trying to keep them, you're being mindful of having them pointing down towards the mat. Last one. Okay, shake that out. And now we'll do the left side. So flex the left foot. And bring the knee out to the side, to the back, towards the wrist, out to the side, and to the back, in towards the wrist. This side's harder for me. Out to the side, towards the back, in towards the wrist. Go out to the side, towards the back, in towards the wrist. Two more, right? Out to the best side, to the back, in towards the wrist. Last one. Good. Set it down, shake it out. We got to go the other way. Flex the foot, bring the knee to the back, out to the side, in towards the wrist. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, shake that out. Maybe extend your knees to the sides of your mat and drop it down for a quick child's pose. You can play around with your range of motion for those. It doesn't have to be as big as mine. It could be bigger than mine. Just as long as you're finding those circles in every direction. Okay. Let's come forward and bring your right foot through your hands. I'm just going to come down into a low lunge. Pausing here for a second. Feeling the stretch in our left hip flexor. And then push it back into a half split. And let's just do that a few times. Inhale, come forward to your low lunge. Exhale back, half split. Inhale, come forward. Exhale back. Again, your leg does not have to straighten as you come back. Inhale. Exhale. Just moving through it. Inhale. Exhale. A few more times. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. As long as you feel the hamstring stretch. Okay, good. Let's switch out our legs. Maybe step it back through plank. Go ahead and bring the left foot forward. Back knee down. Pausing here in our low lunge. Feeling the hip flexor stretch in our right leg this time, our right hip. And then exhale back to your half split. Inhale, come forward. Exhale back. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Inhale, come forward. Exhale back. Inhale, come forward. Exhale back. Inhale, come forward. Last time, exhale back. Good. Inhale, come forward. Step it back to plank. Maybe you want to do a quick vinyasa. And go back to down dog. And we're going to step or jump up to Malasana. So knee or feet kind of wide, at least as wide as your hips, if not a little bit wider. Toes should be out, tracking in the same direction as your knees. And then try to take notice of where your spine is. Does it want to be rounded, sort of like this? Is it dragging you back? Try to lift up, straighten the spine. And maybe you stay up here, and I know that's so much harder on the quads. And then maybe you come back down, sway a little side to side. We'll do that one more time. Come up, straighten the spine, let the knees come out. And then go ahead and sink it back down, using the elbows to push the inner thighs away from one another. And then go ahead and have a seat. We'll take a Baddha Konasana. And this is just kind of, it's our butterfly pose. So this is just kind of a nice measure for how tight or open your hips are in this external rotation direction. So you can see as I bring my pelvis sort of in towards my heels, this is like naturally where I am right now. And my knees are pretty high off the ground. I assure you they were once higher. And yeah, you know, like I've got some opening to do in this direction. So we're gonna try to go for a straight spine, right? And we're just gonna see how it feels to have our pelvis not pulling us back like this, but straight up like this. And so maybe you sit on something like a block so that you can have that straight spine. Maybe you sit against a wall. That's another option. We're gonna take hold of our feet and we're gonna peel them open, sort of like a book. And then we're gonna take our elbows and we're gonna dig them into our calves and press the knees into the ground. And as I do that, you know, like my back kind of wants to start to round. So I have to maintain that straightness, that length in my spine. Press the knees into the ground. And then maybe you start to fold. And as you fold, you've got to maintain the length in your spine. So yeah, this is extremely hard for me right now. And that's okay. Just be where you are today and do it again tomorrow. Slowly come up. Got one more. I'm going for our wide angle seated fold. And so I'll face you, take your legs out to like 90 degrees, maybe a little bit further. And we're just gonna practice sitting first before we fold, because I want you to see how this feels. This, for a lot of people, for myself until recently, you know, was not comfortable. I think that, you know, I can say most of the time, like, this is comfortable now. I can sit here, especially after a little bit of a warm up like we just did. Flex the feet and notice, you know, are your thighs on the ground? Try to lift the kneecaps and have the thighs on the ground. Engage the legs. Have the knees pointing up towards the ceiling. And if you want to fold forward, again, maintain the length in your spine. You can start to fold forward, but notice what your pelvis is doing. Is your pelvis coming with you? Are your thighs, is everything rolling in? And is that allowing you to fold forward? And if that's the case, come back up, stay seated here, feel really grounded, really heavy in the hips, and ask your thighs to stay rolling up and even back a little as you fold forward. They're not actually going to go back, but as we fold forward, they want to go forward with us, so we have to pull them back. Come down into the forearms. If it feels okay, maybe you go all the way to your chest. Maybe you grab onto the big toes, maybe the outsides of your feet. And you've got to breathe. It's the only way to get the hips to open up. Take 2 more deep breaths. One more. Slowly come up. Take your hands underneath your knees. Bring your feet together. Maybe shake that out. and move on with the rest of your day.